PPP is now in phase 3. So my name is Jerry Shallow on behalf of the Rio Rancho Regional Chamber and our partners at SBDC. We're bringing this to you today. This is an exciting opportunity to help our businesses and our nonprofits who have lost significant revenue during this entire pandemic. This is the third tier. There are changes, there are alterations to the application. Things have changed top to bottom. Um, and there are different ways to manage this. Some organizations have the opportunity of this is the first time being able to apply for this or haven't applied for PPP. And then in other cases, other organizations have applied for it. Many have used all of those funds, some have not. So it really creates a unique dynamic in this version of PPP. So we're really looking forward to hearing from our partners at SBDC. And we have, like I said, this valuable information. The valuable information will also be available on the Chamber's website after this presentation. So if you did miss any of it, or if you have any questions, we'll have contact information there for you guys as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Russell with SBDC and let him introduce his team, and we'll go from there. Russell, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So let me share my screen here. And can you see my Rio Rancho Regional Chamber of Commerce slide there?
Sure. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you today to talk about the recent federal actions that were taken with the 5,593 page Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. So this thing was huge. It was, I mean, gigantic, and getting through it was quite a bit. I joked about it was so large as we were going through it. You know, if you're scrolling through something with your mouse, if you bumped that little wheel very much, it would like jump 300 pages. So it was pretty big. I'm Russell Wyrick. I'm the New Mexico Small Business Development Center Executive State Director. And along with me, I have several of my lead center staff, Adrian Gallegos, my Associate State Director, and I have a gentleman by the name, some of you, he's kind of new to Rio Rancho. I'm being sarcastic. Glenn Walters, and he's my senior project coordinator, and he's on the call with me today. And so he'll be jumping in as I go through the presentation, and also helping me with the questions and answers. So you'll get to hear from him as well. I also have our director and staff from our SBTC Service Center there at C&M that serves the Rio Rancho area. And so again, so glad to be here. The reality of the economic picture in New Mexico, as you know, is small businesses are the backbone of the New Mexico economy. That's not even in debate. We know that the employers here, the majority of the employers of size are small businesses. And it's local businesses. The important part of small businesses is that it's those local businesses that really make the community what it is. And it's also those small businesses that have been very significantly impacted by COVID-19. So let me get there we go. All right. So let's talk about what we're going to cover. We got some, I've been on a lot of presentations over the past one. Hopefully I'll be able to cover everything here with you today, but I'm going to talk about 3 different aspects of the PPP. We're going to talk about from 3 perspectives: the first draw applicants, the existing PPP loan recipients, so those that already have the PPP, and then we're going to talk about the second draw applicants. So we've kind of broken it down into that format, and hopefully it'll help you for your particular situation. We're also going to talk about the EIDL and the targeted EIDL advance grants. So the EIDL is the disaster through the disaster office at the SBA. And then we're going to talk a little bit about federal taxes. And there's some really important things in this act that I think a lot of people like on their radar is PPP. That's all that they talk about. But there's so much more in there. that is really important and that may have a bigger impact on your business than PPP. So taxes are one of those. I also want to talk to you a little bit about other SBA loans. Right now uh, is the time I'm encouraging small business owners to get out of a fear mindset. It's time. It's time to change the way you're thinking and how you're approaching this. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. We may be here 12 months from now having these same conversations. We may be here 24 months from now still having these conversations. And at some point it's time to stop operating making decisions out of fear and start making decisions from an entrepreneurial mindset, looking at the opportunities that exist right now to transform your business, to grow your business. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the SBA loans. There's never, you're going to see why, right? If you've ever considered growing your business, buying a second business, expanding, diversifying industry, now's the time to do it. And there's never been a better time to do it. Interest rates are low, and there's also an opportunity through this act, and I'll share that with you. We're going to just briefly hit the Shuttered Venue Operation Grant. Um, I want you to know about some training offerings that are available because there's a lot of stuff in here, and a lot of things you need to kind of be aware of. And so there's multiple trainings that are going to be that we're offering that can help you get your questions answered and get you up to date on this. And so again, we'll just kind of show you the website and how to get there. And then we'll take some questions and do our best to assist you specifically. So really quickly, the NMSBDC network, what we do is we develop skilled entrepreneurs and strong businesses through one-on-one business counseling and advising and training. And I want to specify something here. The SBDC, we're really not, it's not about business development. It's about entrepreneur development. Because behind a successful business, any successful business, is going to be an entrepreneur, or it's going to be, even if it's a larger small business that has a board, it's someone or a manager in that business that has an entrepreneurial mindset. It's the person who's looking ahead, looking at where the industry is going, making decisions as to, hey, we need to move, we need to reposition, we need to diversify our product line. And so at the SBDC, our focus is on developing the entrepreneur because we know if we can develop a skilled entrepreneur, they can lead a successful business. You can develop a successful business without a skilled entrepreneur. And the second the next wave hits, the second you have an emergency like COVID and there's not an entrepreneur at the helm, things start going wrong and nobody knows what to do. So just want to make that clear. A big part of what we do, it's about getting you good at this entrepreneurship thing. We provide a no fee assistance. It's hands-on. So this is like one-on-one counseling. We help you with starting a business, growing an existing business. And these are businesses of all sizes. So as long as you have 500 employees or less, you're good to go with us. Saving a business, obtaining financing. We help people with selling a business, buying businesses. We do, pretty much everything in that lane. We also provide low cost a no to low cost business training and workshops. So fortunately, all the workshops we have right now are web based because of the pandemic, but there's no cost for those. So I encourage you to take advantage of those. Again, they're there for you to help you become a skilled entrepreneur. We are an nationally accredited program. We're required by law to be accredited. We go through that every 5 years. And so again, we're not here to talk about the SBDC, but if you want to know more, you can visit our website. All right, so let's take a second here and talk a little bit about the PPP opening dates. Borrowers submitted applications to the lenders as of January 19th. PPP is open to everyone. So all the lenders are now open for the first draw and second draw applications. So that does not mean that all lenders are participating, but it does mean that all lenders now that are eligible to participate. And so you can go to your lender and ask them if they're participating, and we recommend that as the best place to start. The current budget is $284 billion, and in just the first week alone, the SBA has already approved over 60,000 of those PPP loans from about 3,000 lenders. They're already over $5 billion. I don't want you to panic though. It's not like there's a shortage on money. It's gonna we're confident it's gonna be there for at least a few weeks. Um, Again, don't quote me on that, but I do believe that there's going to be a little bit of time here. So it's not the type of thing to where you should panic. Like if you don't have your application in by the end of the day, you're going to miss out. I think you have a week or two to make some important decisions for your business and have some discussions with your accountant, tax attorneys, things like that. Okay. Now, but you have to apply before March 31st, 2021, or until, again, the appropriations expire or run out. So just remember there is the application. You got to get it in by that deadline. And there is always a chance they'll run out of funds, but so you'll want to keep an eye on it. Okay, and as I'm going again, I'm going to. Glenn is on the call with me. Glenn, you just jump in. You want to say hi, Glenn?
Hi, Glenn.
There you go. So Glenn, you just jump in anytime if I miss something or if you want to add some input.
Absolutely.
All right, great. So let's talk about the payroll protection program. Um, so we're going to start with the first draw. All right. The size standard and the eligibility criteria and limitations for the original CARES Act. So when it originally came out, are applicable and including 60%. So 60% must be for payroll to qualify for forgiveness. So um, 60% of that, of what you're spending that on, it has to be for payroll in order to qualify for forgiveness. It expanded the eligibility to include 501c6 nonprofits, which would be again Chamber of Commerce's. Um, Destination marketing organizations now qualify, housing cooperatives, newspapers, radio stations, broadcasters, things like that. So it did expand those that were eligible. It also, this is pretty big, it expanded the covered expenses to include software, cloud computing resources, human resources, accounting. And the other thing it did was property damage cost due to public disturbances that weren't covered by insurance. So that was new. It also expanded it to supplier cost and then the purchase of personal protective equipment. So there's a lot of examples here, but for example, let's say you need a drive-through for your business. Now's a great time to do it because you could use the PPP to cover that expense. So just things like that that were added in, and you can in the law review that, or you can talk to your SBDC and we can kind of help you go through to identify what you're talking about and see whether there's alignment there. But again, we always recommend you talk with your accountant before you make those decisions. Um, it includes set-asides to support the first-time PPP borrowers with 10 or fewer employees. So they just set aside some funds for those smaller employers, and then also some set-asides for the loans made by community lenders. They just want to make sure that some of those micro or small businesses have a chance to get the PPP.
So Russell, just real quickly, just to cover a little bit more on that, the idea of payroll cost and that 60-40 split. Again, 60%, in order to be forgiven, you have to spend at least 60% for payroll costs. Payroll can include things like employee vacation, actual salary, medical, sick leave, etc. Um, you know, those kinds of issues. And you can use it for other things. The original was mortgage interest, rent, utilities, and interest on any other debt obligations incurred before February 15th, 2020. So those other new things that Russell just talked about were in addition, but these earlier ones still remain of what you can use. But again, only 40% of this, in order to be forgiven, only 40% can be used for these things. 60% must be used for payroll. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you, Glenn. And that is important. You need to make sure that when you're managing the PPP and the expenditures, that you keep that in mind. Because again, if you don't follow that formula, you may wind up in a situation where it's not a portion of it is not fully forgivable, um, and then you're going to have to make payments on it. So just be aware, keep an eye on that. They did a simplified loan forgiveness application form. It was basically a one-page certification that small businesses, lists the loan amount, number of employees retained, and that for payroll costs, and that's only for the PPP loans of $150,000 or less. I do want to make it clear the PPP loans are not automatically forgiven. You have to submit a form or the application for the forgiveness. So you apply for the PPP, you get the PPP, and then when it's time for the forgiveness portion, you do have to submit for that. So I just want to make sure. I think some people get confused and think, oh, I'll just do it and it happens automatically. You do have to submit for it, but fortunately, they streamlined it for the smaller PPPs.
And
And
whether it's a loan application or a loan forgiveness, those all go to the lender.
yes,
They all go to the lender.
and that's correct. So your PPP application, you're dealing with that through your lender, and then the same thing with the forgiveness application, you're dealing with it through your lender. Thank you, Glenn. That's an excellent point. The other thing we're going to talk about is the employee retention tax credit. So we're going to talk about this later, but originally, if you remember, you had to choose between the two. Well, there's something exciting here about this. So you may be able to qualify for the employee retention tax credit as well if you got the first PPP already. So let's talk about recipients, the covered expenses. So if you've already got your PPP, the covered expenses for loan forgiveness were expanded, as stated with the first draw, and we talked about that. They repealed the previous CARES Act provision. So there was originally a provision in the CARES Act, and it required small businesses to deduct the EIDL advance. So the economic injury disaster advance, that was you went on the SBA website to apply for that. If you'll remember, that was like the way they did it was like $1,000 per employee, and you could get up to 10,000. So if you had 10 employees, you could get up to 10,000. And so originally they were charging that back. So if you got the EIDL advance, when you got the PPP, they would deduct the amount you got on the advance as from the forgivable portion of the PPP. Well, they repealed that, so that's not an issue. If you've already, for those of you that have already run into that, so let's say that you've already been making payments because of that thing, you'll need to check with your lender, and I think the SBA is working on that because again, they're going to address that because now it's forgivable. All right, the forgiven PPP loans are not taxable income. Expenses that you pay with the PPP loans are now tax deductible. So that is a big change. And you'll want to talk to the IRS for details. And again, you need to talk with your accountant as you're going through these processes. So let's for recipients, you can now also receive the employee retention tax credit and the PPP loan. Originally, you had to kind of choose between the two. Well, it's not, it was pretty clear at that point the PPP was for most businesses a better deal. Well, now you're not forced with that because of that change. So now you can get both, and then reapplication may be an option for you. So let's talk about the second draw. This is the second draw for those that have are eligible for the second draw. Here's kind of the rules for it. You can't have more than 300 employees, and you have to demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in your revenues between comparable quarters of 2019 and 2020. Now, we're going to get questions on this because we normally do, so I'm going to cover it now. What that means is you have to compare a quarter between the 2019 year, which is pre-COVID, and the 2020 year. And yes, it has to be the same quarter. So if you're comparing the second quarter against the second quarter between those 2 years, the good news is you get to choose which quarter you do the comparison on, but you're comparing a 2019 quarter with the same 2020 quarter, but you have some flexibility in identifying which quarter you're doing the comparison from. Glenn, did you have something to add?
Yes. So if perchance you were a brand new business in 2020 and opened before that February date, let's say you opened in January, you wouldn't have a comparable quarter in 2019. And provisions are on the SBA website or through an SBDC consular. You can get that, but there are other provisions of what to compare as long as you open your business before that February 9th date. So if that's an issue, there are other ways to go about that.
Yes, thank you. And that February 9th date is firm. I always have people that say, hey, I opened my business on February 10th or, whatever. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. It's a pretty well established. You can't, you have to have been in business by that date. So the way they calculate this, the maximum loan size is 2.5%, 2.5% of your average monthly payroll cost is going to be the maximum, up to 2 million. Now, unless you're under the NAI CS code of 72, which is accommodation and food service. If you're under that code, your second draw can equal up to 3.5 times your average monthly payroll cost. So they recognize how hard hit that industry was, so they put something in there to just allow a little bit higher maximum for those businesses. All right, now the bar you must have used or will use the first draw amount only for eligible expenses before the second draw is dispersed. So if you got the first draw of the PPP and you still have that PPP, you're still sitting on some of that first draw of PPP money. You're not going to be in a position. You can't go for the second draw. So again, the point here is you'll have to have used or will use that first draw for eligible expenses. Then you can deal with the second in regards to disbursement. To get the full loan forgiveness, you have to spend, again, like we said, 60% of that second draw on payroll cost over a time period. Now here, this is also kind of nice, a time period of your choosing between 8 weeks and 24 weeks. So you do have a little bit of flexibility there in regards to choosing between 8 weeks, somewhere between 8 weeks and 24 weeks. But again, to be clear, you got to spend 60% of that on the payroll cost. And that was the whole design of the PPP. They did include some set asides to support second-time borrowers with 10 or fewer employees, like we talked about before. So there is some money set aside specifically for the smaller businesses. All right.
So, Russell, real quick on a note, because we always get this question. Well, if I'm applying now, do I go for the second draw? No. If you've never received if you've never received a PPP loan, then you're a first draw applicant. You have to go through the first draw process first.
Right. Thank you. So the economic injury disaster loans. Now the EIDL program's been around for a long time. Okay, it's a well-established long-term program. That's what the SBA typically uses when there's like a tornado or a hurricane or something like that, and then they send representatives out. Well, they use that same lane, that same disaster office for the EIDL related to the COVID-19. And so it has the same name, same terminology. So when you go to their website, you don't kind of get confused. You can apply for an EIDL for like a drought, if you qualify, you're a county that whatever, or you can apply for the EIDL in regards to the COVID-19 situation. So again, hopefully that may clear it up if you get some confusion on the website. But they extended the portal until December 31st, 2021. So the opportunity to apply for the EIDL related to the COVID-19 has been extended to the end of the calendar year. The terms for that are 3.75% for businesses and then 2.75% for nonprofit. Now, the good thing about this is that you can get terms up to 30 years. When you do the math on that and you look at what your payments would be, if you spread it out, it's pretty good. So this is really a good opportunity, especially when you consider, let's say you're not going to be using all the money for payroll or 60% for payroll. That's why the EIDL may be a really good idea for some of you, depending on your particular situation. So because you can use it for working capital and normal operating expenses, and you don't have that 60% criteria that you do with the PPP. The original amount on that was 2 million, and then the SBA came back by regulation and they capped it at 150,000. We are waiting to find out whether that gets released back, so it's higher. But just stay tuned. We're hoping for more guidance from the SBA on this. Again, that opened, if I'm correct, the advanced opened for the 17th. We'll talk about the advanced in a second. But just keep keep an eye on that, keep your ears open, and again, we'll send out information at the SBDC if we get news that they're going to uncap it. So the advance grant. So if you remember when they first did the EIDL, like I talked about, it was 1,000 per employee up to 10. Well, that money, so the original EIDL grant, so think of them as kind of two different things, even though they're the same. In your mind, I want you to think of them differently because they operate differently now. So all of that original EIDL grant is gone. That's over. So, you know, that first wave that happened, that money was expended, that ended, and that opportunity is gone. So they put in this new advance called the EIDL Advance Grant, but it's got some very specific criteria, okay? They put $20 billion in funding towards it for $10,000 grants, but it's got some rules, so it's not going to apply to everyone. It's only, like it did last time, it's only going to apply to a very narrow group. So here's the rules. It's targeted for small businesses. You have to have fewer than 300 employees. So if you have more than 300, you don't qualify. Here's the big one. You have to be located in a low income community. So depending on where your business address is going to depend on whether you are eligible for the advance. Like I live here in Rio Rancho, and like my wife does some contractor work. She doesn't qualify because, again, we live in a part of Rio Rancho that is not low income. But as you expand, let's say some of you are within the county, it's quite possible, because there's a lot of the state that is considered low income. So it's quite possible you may qualify, but it's something you have to look to identify for your business. And then you also have to experience a 30% reduction in gross receipts during any 8-week period between March 2nd and December 31st, relative to a comparable 8-week period immediately preceding March 2nd, 2020, or during 2019. And then again, if it's a seasonal business concern, and then that sort of thing, that amount's determined as appropriate by the SBA administrator. So we're hoping that advance is, from my understanding, opened on the 17th. And you should, I believe they have updated the website. So the first presentations I did, people would call me and they'd say, oh, well, the website says the EIDL's not available, that advances. Well, it is now, and I believe they've updated their website. So when you go through that page, if I'm correct, it'll cover this EIDL Advance Grant, and it will tell you this criteria, and then right below it, it'll say the EIDL Advance Grant is not available on the same page. But that's why I'm saying, think of them as two different things. This is like the second EIDL Advance, and it's narrowed, but the first one is no longer available. So I know that's pretty confusing, but hopefully it made sense.
Russell, for clarity purposes, this is Jerry.
Yes.
Hey, so Bernalillo is one of those towns that's listed as a low-income community. Can an employer or a business, shall I say, apply for just the $10,000 advance grant? They don't have to apply for any more for EIDL, just the grant?
That is correct. So it's kind of one of the things, whenever you apply, you can apply just for the grant and receive the grant and not take the loan portion of it. So, but it's my understanding, when you apply for the advance, it's kind of putting you in the queue, and you'll get contacted for the actual loan, and you can just say, you know, I'm not going to take the loan, or I'm not interested in the loan, etc. But yes, you can apply just for the EIDL grant if you meet the qualifications.
Because in that community, we have a number of restaurants, for instance, that have been impacted that meet that criteria, but they didn't apply for EIDL before. So this would open this up to them potentially, and up to a $10,000 grant.
Absolutely. And this is one that is a little different than the PPP. I do recommend people move on this one pretty quickly, because I think this money is going to go faster. So if you do live in an area that qualifies, I do recommend you move pretty quickly on this. You don't want to wait around 30 days, because again, it could be there, but because it's not a loan, it's a grant. It's just the type of thing that I think it may go pretty fast. And it's also because It's a little bit more money, even for those that got it in the past, and I'll explain that here on the next slide.
So a couple things to add with this on idle. And one of them, let's just say that you actually applied for an idle advance or an idle loan, and the idle advance grant had already been expended. SBA knows that, and if your business or organization qualifies for it, they are going to give you that money. They already know that. And if you had received an advance grant earlier less than 10,000 and you meet this new qualification, you don't have to do anything. SBA will be contacting those folks directly and providing those dollars. So that's not a concern. It may just take a little while for all of those to happen, but it will. No, there's no need to reapply or anything. It is, the slide says May. They have now said it will happen by the SBA. But one other thing you might want to talk about with that piece is alerting folks to scam and make sure who the emails are coming from about any of this. Russell, you want to mention that real quick?
Yeah, you just need to make sure that in your correspondence with the SBA that it ends in it's Sba.gov. So any other website, if you get Sba.help, that is not the SBA who's emailed you. During the first round, there were some scams that were going around, and so people, when you apply for the idle, you're going to get a number. You want to hold on to that number, and when you do correspondence or discussion, the SBA is going to know it's you. They should be able to give you that number on your application back, so that you know you're really talking to the SBA. And so just be aware. One of the biggest cues you can get is if it does not have, if the email is not SBA.gov, you're not dealing with the SBA. Okay. But the point here we want to make on the idle is, if you remember the first idle advance, it was like if you had 3 employees, you get 1,000 per employee. Well, if you qualify for, you're in the low income area, you are eligible for the full 10,000. So if you have 3 employees and you got the $3,000 on that first idle advance, you're eligible for the full 10 now. So, and like Glenn said, they should be automatically doing that process. But that's why I'm saying, even if you're a 2-person business, small person, and you're in a qualifying area, something you need to apply for, because again, you're eligible for the full 10,000 if you meet the criteria. And they extended the coverage for the grants through December 31st, 2021. So the employee retention tax credit, this is a huge one, and I think most businesses are overlooking this. When I mention taxes, inevitably my small businesses kind of shut down. They stop listening, and they think, oh, this is something my accountant deals with, and I'll deal with this when I get ready to file in April, whatever. Okay. But I want you to pay attention to this, because you're going to want to move on it, and it's not what you're thinking. So you may remember hearing about the employee retention credit back in the original CARES Act, and there was a credit in there, but it was a smaller credit, and then the small businesses had to choose between the PPP loan and taking the credit. At that time, the PPP for most businesses, like I said, was a better deal, and now you don't have to choose. But what this is it applies against what you submit for withholdings. This is the payroll taxes, the Social Security that you send in for your employees, that you withhold and send in. So this is not the taxes. This is the withholdings of your employees that you're sending throughout the year. That's what we're talking about. What's cool is it's a refundable credit. So if your eligible credit exceeds your level of taxes, the IRS sends you a check for the difference. So that means some, we'll say not all, some of the payroll taxes that you paid, you sent in for your contribution to your employee Social Security, you may be eligible. The IRS is going to send you a check back for that. Okay. So, and then also what's cool is it's even advanceable. So this is going through the first 2 quarters of the year. And the way it's set up, it is up to $7,000 per employee per quarter for the first 2 quarters of this year. So So that's a total of a maximum of like $14,000 per employee that you could get through June 30th, and it's advanceable. So imagine again getting an advance from the IRS on that. So it puts money in your pocket. For some of my larger businesses, I'm like, again, you do realize that if you're over 100 employees, we're talking about this could be easily over $500,000. And if you're larger than that, we've got a lot of businesses that we're talking about. It's going to be way over $1 million. So you need to just be aware this is there, and it's something you need to be talking to your accountants about to move on. They expanded the eligibility to include employers who experienced a decline of 20% or more. So that was a big change, if I'm correct.
It was previously at 50%.
Yeah, that's right. So that was a pretty big change. Originally it was 50%, so they moved it to 20. So most small businesses in this state have had a decline of more than 20%. So I think most are going to end up qualifying. The employee cap was raised to 500 employees. Originally it was 100. So when we say the cap, it doesn't mean that if you have 501 employees, you can't do this. It just means that you can't claim the 501st employee, but you can claim up to 500. So again, even our bigger players here are going to be able to participate. And you can also, like I said, you can use the employee retention tax credit and the PPP, just not to cover the same, payroll expenses. So taxes, we'll hit this one really quickly. If you remember,
Hey, Russell, I'm
yes.
sorry, real quick on the employee. Also, you may want to talk to your accountant, whatever, about last year, because you could also, for last year's taxes, still take advantage now, because you don't have to worry about if you got a PPP loan and an employee retention tax credit, even though before it was only 5,000 for the entire year, it wasn't based on quarter, but you might be able to get a refund or whatever on your 2020 withholding taxes up to 5,000 per employee. You would need to talk to your tax accountant, bookkeeper about that possibility.
Right. And that's again why we're recommending you move very rapidly on that. Don't wait. Get in touch with your accountants now, your accountant, and talk to them, because you literally may have tens of thousands of dollars that you're just eligible for, that you just have to go through the process to receive the reimbursement. All right, let's the deferral. So if you remember the White House, the payroll deferral, the employee side, that deadline got extended from April 2021 to December 31st, 2021. So you've got more time to deal with that. You also can defer your employer share of the employer share, so the share that you pay towards your employer, your Social Security, through March 2021, and you can pay those amounts back as late as the end of 2022. And again, talk to your accountant or bookkeeper about those provisions. Now let's talk about the SBA loans. And I think this is one of the ones, the most overlooked opportunity, I think, that really happened with the original CARES Act. And I was really hoping that they would do it again this time, and they did, okay? So let's talk about it, then I'm gonna tell you the coolest part, and it's regarding new loans. So it enhanced the terms of the 7A loan program by increasing the loan guarantee to 90%, offering reduced to no fees for the borrower and the lender, so you can get that SBA loan guarantee without the fees. It temporarily increases the 7A express loan limit and loan guarantee, and then eliminated the fees for the 504 loan program, and also had favorable terms for refinancing your existing SBA loans. The aggregate limit for the microloan was increased to allow the underserved and underbanked borrowers for participation. And it would also, if you see here, it would defer payments of principal and interest on new and existing SBA 504 microloans for eligible entities. Now, what I want to make clear is when it says defer, I'm not talking about deferment. We're talking about the coverage of the payments. Is that still correct, Glenn?
It is.
So what this means is If I went out today and I said, you know what, there's a little business for sale here in Rio Rancho that I'd like to buy. Okay, not that expensive. I can pick up this little business for less than 100,000, and I can go get this on a 3-year loan. The SBA is going to pay the principal and the interest on that loan for 6 months. Okay, so follow what I'm saying here. If I get like a small loan, a note with 3-year term, and they pay the first 6 months of it, that's just like I got a 17% discount on buying that business because the SBA made the first 6 months of payment. So right now, interest rates are the lowest lowest I've ever seen them in regards to, for a long, long time, and the ability to borrow money through the SBA to guarantees for expanding a business, starting a new business. So if you're not a business, you're looking to start a business, now's a great time to do it. Or you know, you want to buy that building, you want to grow, you want to diversify, you want to buy a second business, now's the time to do it. So that's why I'm encouraging everyone, don't miss out on the opportunity. Well, everyone else is in panic mode and everyone else is just thinking, how do I survive? Stop thinking just about survival and start thinking about positioning yourself to be um, ahead of the game and take your business to the whole next level by taking advantage of these type of opportunities. So um, make sure I didn't miss that. Okay, very good. So the Shuttered Venue Opportunity Grant, I'm gonna hit this very, very quickly. Originally, there was a act called the Save Our Stages Act, and that got rolled into this consolidated act. And when they rolled it in, they called it the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant. So you may hear it referred to the Save Our Stages Act, but it was basically that act got rolled in and then was named the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant within the Consolidated Act. So what this is up to $10 million or 45% of the 2019 gross earned income, whichever's less based on significant 2020 revenue losses. Now, the eligibility for this is very narrow. So don't think, hey, I'm a restaurant and I have, you know, on the weekends, I have someone go around the tables and play music. You're not going to qualify. It's not for that. This is very specifically for live venue operators, promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operators, you know, like museums, motion picture theater operators, talent representatives, people those specific individuals who've experienced at least a 25% reduction in their gross earned income. And there are specific rules regarding each. So for example, for a motion picture theater, you have to have a projection projection booth, you have to have fixed seating. So there's rules that apply specifically depending on which of these entities you are. And so we're waiting on some of these details. The SBA's are out, but the SBA was going to be releasing more information and guidance on this. And so, we'll let everyone know as soon as we have more information. But if you get the important thing you need to know if you're in that if you think you might be eligible for this, is that you can't get this grant and the new PPP. So you'd have to choose between the two. So if you get this grant, you cannot, you may not apply for the new PPP. So you just want to be aware of that. So if you think this is your lane, you may want to wait a little bit to get more information on this before you go after the PPP, because if you do that, it'll make you ineligible for this opportunity. It's not open yet, so you can't apply for this yet. So just stay tuned. We do not know when it's going to be open. We've heard a lot of chatter. It may be March. It may be late March, early April. We just don't know. But as soon as the SBA has released the guidance, we'll certainly have information on our website for this. But again, this is very narrow. So don't. This is only probably maybe applying to a couple people on this call. Some of you may be associated with the city, community, etc. And so there is some eligibility opportunities there as well. So let's say, Glenn, you might hit that. There may be some venues or something that are related to Rio Rancho. And this is something you need, there's some rules, and so even there may be some eligibility there that needs to be explored. Okay, so the information to register for training, request no cost business counseling and work, you would visit us at nmsbdc.org. And when you go to that website, you're going to have, we have all of this information. We have multiple recordings of these videos and trainings, as well as links to very detailed information on all of these opportunities. So Adrian, are you still on with us?
I am, Russell.
I'm going to stop sharing, and if you could very briefly just show them how they can find the trainings that we've got upcoming, so they can identify which ones would make sense for their specific business.
Sounds good. So can you see my screen with the website?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. Thank you. This is our New Mexico Small Business Development Center website, and our, like Russell said, the website address is nmsbdc.org. I just want to bring your attention really quickly to our workshop. Let me move this box out of the way. Our workshop and events page. When you go to our workshops and events page here, you will see all of our workshops. I left this one up real quick on this PPP with the employee tax retention. We had Neil Bradley yesterday that did a presentation for us. Neil and his office are going to, we're thinking maybe every other week, maybe every 3 weeks, but definitely as updates become available. I just want to make sure that you guys know, go to our website frequently, because if they come up, Neil has agreed to make sure that we have that information straight away and that we get it out, and where we'll advertise that is right here on this website. Jerry and his team, they're on our distribution list, and they'll send this out to the members as well. But just make sure that you visit our workshop and events page very frequently. We also have Chris Garcia. He's one of our business advisors in Valencia County, and once a month he puts on a e-commerce and alternative selling methods. Amazing job he does on this one, and I think this one is not more important than anything else, but kind of, because he does go through the alternative selling methods. And right now we're kind of in an alternative environment, if you will. So he has great tips and tricks on how to keep our small businesses and our customers engaged. We also,
Adrian,
sure.
I want to add something to everyone. If you do not have a website, okay, and you are not prepared to provide your service or product via the internet, if you're sitting here thinking that this COVID-19 thing, we're just waiting for it to get over and then things will go back to the way they were, it's not going to happen. The world has changed. There were businesses that have continued to operate somewhat successfully without websites. Those days are over. And so I just want to encourage everyone, now is the time. You've got to take the time to understand web technology moving forward, because people buy differently now. Everyone's bought something over the internet now. I doubt there's almost anyone in the US who's not bought something through the internet now since COVID occurred. Okay, so they're getting comfortable with it. They're comfortable putting their credit card into the internet to buy something. They're comfortable ordering food over the internet, okay, and having it delivered. The world has changed. So if you've been a holdout, now is the time. And so again, I pay attention. I recommend you take advantage. Use this to your advantage. Sorry, Adrian.
Oh, no problem at all. In fact, maybe we'll just skip ahead a little bit, and I'll go ahead and introduce Fran Fernandez. She's our director for your service area for Sandoval County. Fran, are you on the line?
Hi, yes. Good morning, everyone. Like Adrian said, my name's Fran Fernandez, and I serve the Sandoval and Bernalillo counties. Our center is SBDC at CNM. Just wanted to shout out a quick hello to everyone. We're here to help you. If you need help with your business, we are here for you. Please just give us a call at our main office, 224-5250. We'd be happy to set up a meeting with you, with one of our wonderful business advisors to help you with your business needs. I did put my information in the chat, so please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay.
So reach out to your local SBDC center. Jerry has all of our contact information, so he's a wealth of knowledge, and he'll make sure that you get with us. Great. Thank you for reminding us about that website, Russell. One thing about what the SBDC brings to the table is that we have Fran, of course, at CNM, but we also have 17 centers across the state that we can call on for your specific business needs. You have a team behind you. So I'm trying to get through this really quick. I'm going to skip a few things. Time is of the essence here. We do have, I want you to check back to the workshops and events, because we're actively working with our PTAC, IBA, and our TCA programs, because they're going to start putting in their trainings as well. And our technical commercialization accelerator in particular, I want you to watch for, because as Russell was talking about scams that we have from the SBA, they're going to hit on that really, really heavily. So again, just reach out to, go ahead.
Good, Adrian.
Again, just reach out to your local SBDC centers, reach out to your chambers. They're in the loop for you guys. Thank you so much.
So yeah, thank you, Adrian. And like you said, be sure to visit our website, and we have all of the trainings listed. So in summary here, and we're gonna get to questions, you wanna create, here's what you gotta do. If you're looking at PPP, you need to start talking to your lender now. If you're looking at EIDL, you need to go to the SBA loan and get started, the SBA website, and get started on that. The employee retention tax credit, you need to talk to your accountant or bookkeeper now. Don't wait. You need to call and contact them now. And then the NMSBDC network is here, and we're always ready to help and assist you. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over.
Well, thank you, Russell. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Glenn, for the great presentation today. This is a huge help to some businesses that are going through definitely some tough times. We have some questions here that we had acquired prior to the presentation, and was wondering if you would be able to answer these in the last couple minutes that we have. The first one being is, we've heard some, one of the businesses that asked a question. They're a first-time borrower, but when they're calling their local bank, they're finding out that they're only handling folks that had already gotten a PPP loan before. They didn't apply for it the first time or get it the first time. This is a first go around. Is there a list of lenders that they can go reach out to, because their concern was they're getting solicited by lenders they've never heard of? Is there a list that SBDC or the chamber has that can give them some direct?
So I can take that if you want, Russell.
Yes, please, Glenn. I know you were
So
just doing
on the
research
on the last slide that Russell showed, the SBA has what they call Lender Match. And so if you go to the SBA Lender Match, that's the website. It's on that last slide that Russell showed. You put in your information, and then it actually will show you lenders in that zip code or whatever area, whatever. If that's not helping, then talk to Fran, our CNM center, talk to Wes, talk to SCORE, talk to whoever you need, any of the resource partners. They should be able to help you find. I would stay away from the solicited ones, because the ones that are actually operating, they're busy doing applications and don't have time to go solicit. So yeah, so if you can't find one, use Lender Match, or go talk to an advisor such as the SBDC, West, SCORE, etc., to find a lender.
And I would encourage you to use a New Mexico lender if at all possible. Our lenders would appreciate that, and would really help the state out if we could keep as many of those loans as possible within the state.
One other thing is that the SBA state guide, which is on the district office in New Mexico, district office, if you go to the website and you see the resource guide, it identifies like all of the different lenders in the area. That doesn't necessarily mean they're participating in that program, but that gives you a listing of reputable ones in New Mexico.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Another question was, if I was forced to reduce my staffing due to indoor restaurant closures, do I apply for bringing my staff back for PPP, or do I apply based on my staffing today for outdoor dining?
So this is kind of a multi-level question here, and because again, you're choosing the quarter of when you apply it. I think part of this is going to be an analysis of because we don't know where we are and we don't know when we're going to get there. So that's what I'm saying. The reality is we may be in the situation we're in for another 6 months. We may be in this situation for another. No one wants to hear that, and I know we all hope it doesn't occur. But we could be here in January, restaurants in the exact same scenario we're in right now. It could happen if there's a strain of the virus, et cetera, that mutates. So you're going to have to look at that and kind of make the decision. You're going to have to make the decision as to when you start bringing people back and how to apply. That's what I'm saying. It's really more of a business decision rather than a loan question.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Third question was, is there anything available if we did not open our business until March? They had read in the guidelines or heard from the banker that they would have been open in February.
Absolutely. So your two options would be well, that's what I'm saying. In that situation, I would look at the standard SBA loans, a 7A loan, a micro loan, et cetera, because remember, you can get that first 6 months interest and payments, not deferred, they pay them. And so that's an opportunity available to everyone. So like if you started a brand new business today, you could qualify for that. So that's probably the direction I'd recommend for a business in that situation.
And what about the employee tax retention tax credit?
Absolutely. So the employee retention tax credit would be something that you could take advantage of now. So good catch, Glenn. So and remember, that's real money. So if you started operating and you were sending in your employee Social Security withholdings, that's money that you can apply for to get back. So that would be another one. You're correct, Glenn.
Perfect, thank you. So we're exactly in an hour right now. Again, Russell, Adrian, Glenn, Fran, we really appreciate you taking the time today to explain these exciting programs that really are going to help keep our businesses afloat. So with that, what I'll let everyone know is of course, you can go to the Rio Rancho website, the chamber website, rrrcc.org. We have a COVID page, which will have the information from this presentation today, as well as additional information to help you and grow your business. In addition to that, there's also a link to SBDC in what they were all discussing today, how to find information about training, education, grow your business, lending options. We'll also have that Sba Lender Match link on our website as well. So with that, again, thank you to everyone that attended live, and then those that are watching via other ways, via recorded or Facebook. Thank you guys so much. And again, thank you SBDC for your time today. Have a great day.
Thank you.